Okay, this video I'm going to talk about 5 secrets to unlocking your athletic potential. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this subject is because as a youngster I love sports and I tried my heart out at everything I did. I was always, played everything with my older brother and with his friends, so I was always trying to keep up. I was always a little bit smaller, a little bit slower, a little bit weaker, but I always fought really hard to compete. And so on my journey as an athlete, I had challenges and I didn't really get to where I wanted to as a sports person, and that's what's made me passionate about helping others to get to where they want to be, because I know that if I knew when I was 20, when I was 15, the things that I know now, I could have gone a lot further, and that it gives me great joy to help other people to get towards their highest potential. But it's not just about athletic development. I think there's a lot more to it than that, but we'll get to it as we go along. So the first key to athletic development is knowing what you want, okay? So knowing what you want is really where it all starts. If you know, as many Olympians do from an early age, that they want to go to the highest level, that they want to be the best, then the chances of getting there are much, much greater than people who set themselves limited goals and believe in a limited capacity. If you believe that there are limits on your performance, then you'll be right. But the truth is there are no limits, and all the great athletes have shown that because they've gone to levels that no one's ever gone before. And that's what it's really about. This part is knowing what you want, deciding what you want your legacy to be as an athlete, deciding what you want your legacy to be as a person. If what you've chosen to be and to develop yourself as is an athlete, then do it the best way you can. Take it to the highest level, and don't be afraid to put your whole heart into it. Don't be distracted by other parts of life, the limitations of people around you. Don't be distracted by what people say you can and can't do. Set yourself a high goal, have an image in your mind of who you are and what you want to be, and hold on to that. Don't let anybody bring you away from that. If you can have that image, the younger that you can get that image in your mind and understand that you have a limitless potential and that you can be better and better, and the example of the great athletes around you, you can go beyond what they've got to if you truly believe in it and you apply the other principles that I'm about to talk about here. So the second principle is one that I'm very passionate about, because health is more and more of an issue in society. You only have to look around, have a look in our hospitals. Hospital beds are overflowing, and pharmaceutical profits and expenditures are going up and up. Health is obviously a bigger and bigger issue in society, and athletes are also part of this. Generally, athletes are the healthiest people in society, but there are lots of athletes, and as a professional coach, at the moment I'm working as a professional coach with a rugby league team, and I've seen firsthand that health issues can be a massive hamper on training capacity and on performance. So putting health first is a key to developing your full athletic potential. How hard can you train if you've got a migraine? If you're not sleeping right, how much energy are you going to have for the next day's session? So building health is a real priority and a real key. So the main areas that we look at when we're trying to help people to build their health are nutrition and sleep and regeneration. There's a whole lot of detail that we can go into with that, and that's a big video, a topic into itself. But if you understand food, then you can go a long way towards recovery. And a good way to think about food and a good way to understand it is to look around in nature. If you look at zoos, at our pets, and at ourselves as humans, we're living further outside of nature's rules than animals living in the wild. And what are the consequences of that? We see that humans and our pets and animals in zoos have cancer, they have diabetes, they have impotency, they have obesity, and their athletic performance obviously suffers. Animals in the zoo don't tend to be as athletic. Our pets are often not as athletic as wild dogs, and the average human is horribly unathletic compared to our most similar cousins, chimpanzee primates, or even if you look back at the words of the early explorers who found indigenous populations and found that they were just vibrant, full of health, powerful, able to perform amazing amounts of work with a smile on their face and still be ready to go the next day. If we look at it from that perspective, then we can understand that what we eat is part of the foundation of our performance. So another way to think about that is think about the animals that we have in captivity. So the way that we produce chickens or the way that we produce cows. I had the experience of working on a feedlot for 3 months, so I saw firsthand what happens when we raise cows for profits, so to make them fat as quick as possible, to make them big as quick as possible. And what you can see there is that there are young cattle that are dying of diseases like stroke, and they're having all sorts of health problems that cattle grown on grass just don't have. So the message here is, if you take a chicken or a cow out of its natural environment, its structures, its performance, its mental health are all going to be negatively affected. We do that same thing with ourselves, but we don't think of it in that context. If you went and bought yourself an expensive greyhound or an expensive thoroughbred racehorse, would you feed it McDonald's? If you had a chimpanzee, would you give it Coke to drink? So why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we do this to our children? Why do we make those decisions? That's a whole video into itself as well, understanding decision making. But once you understand that those decisions are going to affect your performance as an athlete, then it becomes a little bit easier to go, okay, I need to treat myself like a human. I need to treat myself in a similar way to what humans have treated themselves in the past. And if I do that, I'll unlock further potential, further training, recovery capacity. So the nutritional approach that I use with my athletes and that I follow personally is similar to a paleo dietary approach. So eating the foods that Paleolithic men could have eaten. So that means taking out all processed foods, and basically you're on meat, vegetables, nuts, eggs, those sorts of things. But on top of that, for athletes who are performing a lot of work, you can also include some modern carbohydrate sources and have limited negative health effects. So things like quinoa and wild rice, which weren't necessarily the foods of Paleolithic man, can still be part of a healthful diet, and there is still a long way from pizza and those kind of foods that have come to dominate our nutrition over the last 50 years or 30 years. A lot of these foods didn't exist even in our grandparents' time. And if you look around, if you talk to your grandparents about how people were when they were young, you'll often see that the conditions like cancer and diabetes and those sorts of things were much less prevalent, especially in children. It's clear to see that we're degenerating. If you want to be a top level athlete, then you need to break away from the norms of society and the average way of eating. Who wants to live an average life anyway? Regeneration is all about sleep, rest, yin time. So when we're training hard, it's all about yang. We're putting energy out, we're being forceful, we're exerting ourselves. It's very important to have time to relax. The most important relaxation time is obviously your sleep. So looking at sleep quality is essential if you want to get the most out of your training. That's a whole other area that you need to develop if you want to be a top athlete. But some of the keys to top quality sleep are making sure that you have adequate magnesium levels. Magnesium deficiency is a common reason why people don't sleep as well as they should. It's also a factor in lots of other medical conditions, and it's a really common deficiency. Sleeping with artificial light in the room is also a really powerful negative factor in sleep quality. So one of my books here is Lights Out by T.S. Wiley. That's a great book to look up if you're interested improving your sleep quality. Also, we've got some paleo books there as well that explain a bit about the paleo diet. So we've got Rob Wolf's book, Noriega Gaudas. I've also read some of Mark Sisson's work. They're great books. They don't have the whole picture for athletes, in my opinion, but they're important books to understand. Possibly the best book on nutrition is Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. So this is a dentist who went and saw the world in the 1930s, and he took dental records of the people and looked at the foods that they were eating, and he saw that people were much healthier in undeveloped societies, societies outside of Europe that weren't following a European lifestyle compared to people in Europe. And he wanted to know why that was, and he discovered the reasons, some of the key reasons behind that. So that's a really interesting book if you want to understand why societal health is the way it is. Some of the great books for knowing what you want are also here. I've read lots of different sort of books along those lines. John DeMartini has some great books that I've read recently, and there's a whole bunch of sort of authors along that help you along those lines. Michael Bernard Beckworth, Life Visioning, that's a really nice book as well. I've recently done Bob Proctor's Success Puzzle. There's lots of really good resources out there if you decide that you really want to be successful and go to the top in what you're doing. The next area that I'm talking about is building healthy habits. So it's one thing to go, yeah, like I want to get to sleep earlier, I want to eat well. You can know that those things are important, but it's not always easy to put it in place. So it's a process. Anyone who wants to make change is going to have some difficulties. Anytime you try and break a routine or change a habit, it's a challenge. So understanding how you build habits is a real key to that. There's a really good book, Switch, by Chip and Dan Heath. It talks about the rider, the elephant, and the path. So the rider represents your intelligence and your intelligent mind, and that's about understanding, okay, sleep's important, the hormone cycles are affected by my sleep, my neurotransmitters are resetting, those sorts of things. They go to the rider. The elephant is about the emotional mind. So obviously the metaphor of the elephant is that the emotional mind, or the subconscious, is much more powerful than the intellectual or conscious mind. So getting the emotional side of your mind to go along with creating a new habit is also really important. So imagining the effect that a little bit of extra sleep will have on your vibrancy, on your ability to get to where you want to go. If you know that you want your legacy to be that you were an Olympic athlete, then that elephant is going to be ready to run in whichever direction you tell it to. Having that clear picture of what you want in life is really essential to being able to change habits. Otherwise, what are you going to bed early for? You know it's better for you, but you don't really have a good reason to. So you may as well just stay up watching TV or playing on your iPhone. It's really that simple. Environment is the third one. So the path is about the environment that the elephant and the rider are in. If you're living in university dormitories and you're trying to go to sleep early, that's going to be a bigger challenge if everybody's going out partying and you want to get to bed because you know you need to train early the next day. Changing your environment can also be important. If you try and find the quietest room in the building, or move, or do whatever you can. In terms of athlete development, for me, working with professional athletes in a team environment, it's really key to try and shape the environment and make positive habits the norm rather than negative habits. And everyone within the group is going to be a part of that. The coaches are part of that, the athletes are part of that. But once you get the dominant feeling within the group being, we're going to do everything that we can to improve ourselves, and we're not going to self-sabotage. We value, the things outside of training as well as on the training field. We know that there's no limits to our potential. Once those kind of thoughts and that's the dominant paradigm within a team, then the potential for improvement is much, much greater. I wish I had known some of this stuff a lot earlier, but as I grew up, I had a lot of problems with my health. I had issues with my sight, I had issues with my walking. I had to get therapy to be able to walk properly. I had numerous infections that were croup. So I don't know if you know what that is. It means you kind of bark like a dog, and the phlegm doesn't move off your chest. I had frequent earaches, some issues with plantar warts, lots of different health problems that as a child you don't really understand what's going on. You think it's normal, and my parents made a much bigger effort to keep us healthy, to give us good food, than what's probably the norm within society. So if you're not getting what you want at the moment, then it probably means that you're just sticking too close to the norms of what's going on. But for me, turning point, I guess, was I studied exercise science. I was an average athlete, tried to get to the top level. I was studying sport and probably living the university lifestyle sometimes, and trying to live the lifestyle of a professional athlete at other times. And then, just seeing if it was still recording. Then at the end of when I got to the end of my university, I thought, this isn't enough. I have to go and see more of the world. So I went to England and I got a job working with a professional rugby team, doing massage and helping out with strength and conditioning, but I still felt empty. So I went back to Australia and had one last go at hockey. That was my chosen sport, and it just wasn't for me. I wasn't going to be fulfilled in it. I was too anxious. So I travelled the world. I went to Europe for 3 months and lived in Germany, where I met my beautiful girlfriend, who is living with me now in Australia. I also travelled in Central Europe, and London, and I guess at that time I was starting to sort of see a bit outside the square of, when you're just trying to be an athlete, or you're sort of in your closed environment, it can be difficult to put yourself in context and sort of have a vision of what you want your life to be. So I travelled and stayed in Mexico and Latin America for 8 months, and ended up spending 3 years over there, trying to find out what the world's about and really figure out how I can make a difference and make an impact on the world. And I got involved in community development organisations and some political stuff, and I was trying to change the world that way to create a positive change, because I saw that there's too much needless suffering, and there's a lot of health problems that exist because of ignorance, but also because of the dominant paradigm being an ineffective one. So I wanted to change that paradigm, but I saw that it wasn't going to work to change it through aggression, and that's what this t-shirt is about, I guess. I wanted to change it, by force, change the world by making other people see it in a different way. But I guess the turning point with that was seeing the two things really. We're seeing that we all have flaws and that we all have hypocrisy, I guess, with our ideals. So all we can do is try and continually build the positive habits and the positive existence that we want to lead, and to let that be the example to change the world, rather than forcefully change other people. And a friend of mine who was involved in the same kind of journey as I was, she was assassinated. That was really a time when I decided, look, this is not the path. It's really got to be about creating positive change and setting an example. So if as an athlete you can set yourself as an example of a positive existence through your performances, but also through the way that you live your life, and give yourself fully to what you want to be and to what you want to create. You know, that's really what this is about, and that's what I enjoy as a coach now. After that journey, three years in Mexico, a month in Spain, and within 2 or 3 weeks of coming back to Australia to live for the first time in a long time, I got a job with a professional rugby team to go and work in France and to head up a strength and conditioning program, which was a massive leap from, you know, being a backpacker who was kind of angry at the world and learning about, you know, politics and I guess trying to be away from a lot of things in society, to then have the opportunity to jump in as a strength and conditioning coach was an awesome thing. I realised that my passion is in sport and in performance and in helping people and in nutrition, so that was the way that I should be trying to influence the world. I did learn a lot of things about, you know, organic farming and the way the world works that served me in this role, but I realised finally that my legacy will be in health and in helping people to perform and to live as athletes, but also to understand the bigger picture of performance. So that's what this video is about, and that's what I'm trying to do with my life. So I've started a website, keegansh.com, which might be changing to keeganstrength.com soon. But this is what I'm about now. I'm working with a professional team in Australia, the Sydney Roosters. I've got some of the best rugby players in the world on my team who I'm working with, and I've got an amazing opportunity to help them to do what they want to do, to be a part of the success of the team. Okay, so the fourth key to unlocking our athletic potential is to understand skill development. So skill development is at the base of every good athletic performance. Whether you're a power lifter or a soccer player or a rugby player, there are a certain set of skills that you need to be able to reach the highest level in your sport. There are principles that can be followed to develop a high level of skill. If you look at soccer from 10, 20 years ago, or football, depending on where in the world you're from, you'll see that there was a level of skill a long way behind what you'll see today. You know, part of that is because soccer has become a professional sport and it's more widely played and those sorts of factors. But a lot of it is also because we've learned how to develop skills. The Brazilians dominated soccer for a period of time because they were playing more dense skill-based sports. So if you look at in the books like Bounce or Talent Code, Talent is Overrated, or Malcolm Gladwell's book with talking about 10,000 hours, you'll see that those Brazilians playing five-a-side soccer were getting much more skill development time, and they had to develop better skills because of the smaller spaces than people who are playing 11-a-side soccer. So those sorts of factors need to be considered when you think about becoming the top of your sport. If you think about it in terms of weightlifting, the Bulgarians dominated world weightlifting despite being a small country and having much likely a less effective doping program than the Russians and probably lots of other countries around that time. They dominated world weightlifting on the back of a philosophy that was lift near your max very often, do short training sessions, but almost all the training was very specific to the event that they were trying to perform. So the Russians had a system that developed a broad range of skills in weightlifting, and the Bulgarians had a system of very specific skill development. So they almost always lifted exactly the same as they would in a competition, and they continually eliminated lifts that were not specific enough for their method. These are some examples of refining skill development and applying the principles of skill development to improve athletic performance and unlock your athletic potential. So for me, as a hockey player, I was always the guy who would run around the most and try hardest and could sort of see what was going to happen in the game, but I wasn't very skillful. I started the game later than a lot of the guys who were at the top of top of the game, and I was always a little bit behind in terms of that stuff, so I sort of stayed away from that. And that's what we tend to do with skill development. We tend to stay away from the things that we're not comfortable with, and that's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. We need to know our strengths, and we need to continue to develop our strengths. But if we have a big weakness in our game, then that's the area where we can get most improvement. You always know you're going to get greater improvement in the gym with the weak guy compared to the strong guy. You know, if a guy's already got a 140, 150 bench and he's 90 kilos, then you're probably not going to put more than, you could maybe hope for 20 kilos on top of his max. But when you get that guy who's already playing elite sport, he's at 90 kilos and he's benching 100, then you know that his strength potential is there, and he can make much bigger gains than the other guy, and it's likely to have a bigger impact on their performance for the guy who's weaker compared to the guy who's stronger. The squat would have probably been a better lift to choose than the bench press, but I'm just using it to illustrate the point. So when you're thinking about skill development, get those books, understand those principles, understand the importance of direct feedback. Feedback not necessarily saying something's good or bad, but talking about the details of what can be improved. The other factors in skill development is not having that mindset of continual improvement and the search for mastery. It's not about being the best all the time. It's the worst thing in the world that you can do in terms of skill development is to focus on talent. The kid who's told, oh, you're so talented, he's the kid who's going to hide because he doesn't want to lose his tag of being talented. He's not going to try things that he's not good at because someone might say, oh, actually he's not really talented. And so holding on to a tag of being talented can be very, very detrimental for skill development and for the attitude that leads to becoming elite. There are very, very few people who reach the top of their sports who don't have the building mindset of continual development. So that mindset is about going out there every day to improve their skills. Doesn't matter how good they are, they'll continually work to improve. And there's great stories about, golfers. If you read Tiger Woods' story, if you read Michael Jordan's story, if you look at Kobe Bryant, these guys, they just go the extra mile in terms of skill development, and they'll spend hours and hours refining their skills, even though they're already at the top of their game. So if there's an area that you're deficient as an athlete, then you need to work hard on that area as well as the areas where you're already strong. But understand the principles of skill development. It's not just about practicing, it's about practicing in the context that will help you for your games. So for team sports, a lot of it is about practicing in a context of needing to integrate what the other team is doing as well as what you're doing yourself. So you can do a certain amount of isolated skill development, but if the expression of that skill is going to be in an open environment where you really need to react to a defender, then that time is going to be key. You need to spend a lot of time, understanding what's happening in front of you, working on your vision, being able to control the movements of the defender. You only have to watch, the Premier League soccer now, and you see that it's really body art. If every body position that the player demonstrates is a message to the defender and a message to his own teammates. If you send the message that you're going to do a certain thing, but you do another thing, that is really that's really essentially for soccer now. That's what it's all about. It's about controlling the guy in front of you through your own body positions, through your own movements, sending in fakes, and then having the athletic ability to be able to make it count. Soccer massively underestimates the importance of athletic ability, the importance of strength and speed and power, but that's because they're just choosing the fastest and strongest players who have that natural ability, and they also have that skill capacity. And unfortunately, you can make an average player very strong and powerful, and he's still going to be an average player in soccer because the skill component is such a big factor. For other sports like shot put or even rugby to a large extent, if you can make a guy an exceptional athlete, then they can reach quite a high level in their sport. It's those who master athletic ability as well as skill development that really reach the highest level. So that brings me to my last point, which I've sort of just about covered there, which is enjoying the journey and being on the path to mastery. So there's a lot of emphasis now on winning and losing. You know, there's a lot of prize money. You know, and you know, one person's going to be remembered because they won, and the other one's not going to be remembered because they lost. But if you're truly honest with yourself, the most important thing is always going to be building on who you are. And the guy who doesn't make the team because he wasn't good enough, but he continually developed his capacities, is often the guy who in the end becomes the champion. But even if he doesn't become the champion in that sport, those characteristics and those capacities are going to make him a champion in other areas of life. So you never really lose when you give yourself over fully to something that you're passionate about. And yeah, it's all about, you know, I encourage athletes to really think of it as a journey, to not be worried about doing everything perfectly all the time, but to continually look for improvements. And there's going to be times where you feel like you're not improving, everything's staying the same, you're working really hard, but you don't seem to be any rewards for it, and that's called the plateau. And on the journey to mastery, there's going to be a lot of plateaus. But if you keep working hard when you're at that level and you keep looking for things that you can improve on, then you will overcome that plateau and you will go to a new level. So Bruce Lee, you know, his quote was, "There are no limits, only plateaus. We must not stay there, we must overcome them." And I think that's a great philosophy to live by. There really are no limits to athletic potential. There are no limits to how hard you can work and how many factors you can, you know, put in your favor as an athlete. The challenge is to enjoy that journey and to continually improve. So these are 5 factors that will help you get there. If you're interested in more information about these, you can check out my website, keegansh.com. There's tons of articles and information on there to help you take your performance to the next level. If you're looking to go a step further with that, then, you know, contact me, and I can, you know, we can work together to put these things in place as part of a system to take your performance to the next level. There's a whole heap more detail that we can go into in each of these levels, and making an individual plan is really the key to developing. I'm going to have more programs and more videos. Hopefully, you know, I've got a book on the way, an ebook on the way, to help illustrate these points, get into the details, and to really help people take this thing to the next level. And that's what I want my legacy to be in life. That's what I apply myself to, and that's what all these books are here for, I guess. You know, I want to grow, and I want to be able to share what I learn. So thanks for your time, and let me know what you think. Send me some comments about how you're going in these 5 categories at the moment, and I'll see what I can do to help you on your path. Peace.